Some mornings you wake up, stretch, drink your coffee, and remember that somewhere out there, a fully grown adult has typed, "Is it bad if my left lung feels spicy?" into Google without a hint of irony. This is the era where people trust a search bar more than a doctor, and somehow still end up surprised when their self-diagnosis leads them straight into panic mode. Google was designed to answer questions, not babysit existential crises. Yet here we are, watching humanity treat WebMD like a fortune teller with Wi-Fi. And the wildest part? The truly unhinged searches aren't even the ones you're imagining. No, those are still waiting for you. 1. Google search. Can your kidney explode if you sneeze too hard? Look, I get it. The human body is confusing. But the fact that someone thinks they're walking around with organs rigged like overinflated party balloons really sets the tone for the medical genius ahead. This person clearly sneezed once, maybe twice, and decided they were 2 nasal contractions away from becoming a Discovery Channel reenactment. They're imagining the sneeze-building pressure like a shaken soda bottle until, boom, kidney shrapnel. Never mind that kidneys aren't connected to your sinuses, or that humans sneeze roughly a gazillion times in their lifetime without spontaneously detonating. But hey, Google didn't tell them no fast enough, so now they're convinced they're a biological landmine. And honestly, if your first instinct is to ask the internet instead of literally any human with a middle school education, maybe the kidney isn't the organ we should be worried about. 2. Google search. What happens if you drink essential oils because the bottle says therapeutic? Ah yes, the classic misunderstanding. Therapeutic apparently means shot glass ready. Somewhere, a person held a tiny bottle of peppermint oil, the same substance powerful enough to peel paint off a Honda, and thought, this will definitely improve my wellness from the inside. And instead of reading any warning label, which by the way always screams do not ingest, they asked Google if drinking it counts as self-care. Spoiler, it does not. What it does count as is free entertainment for the ER nurse who has to ask, so, why exactly did you drink the concentrated plant venom? Meanwhile, the patient is probably trying to explain how influencers said it cleanses vibrations, which is technically true. It cleanses them right out of your digestive tract. Forcefully. 3. Google search. Why is my tongue spicy after licking a battery? Imagine the sequence of decisions required to end up here. First, there must be a battery. Second, a sense of curiosity so powerful it overrides the basic childhood lesson of don't put electricity in your mouth. And third, the moment of revelation. A tingle, a zap, a small existential crisis. Instead of stopping and thinking, wow, that was stupid, this hero rushes to Google like a scientist documenting a rare discovery. The spicy tongue isn't the concern. The concern is that this was not an accident. No one accidentally licks a battery. This was deliberate, intentional, a self-inflicted experiment in Darwinism. And if the search history had a reason for ER visit column, this one would simply read, testing conductivity using mouth-based methodology. 4. Google search. Can you break your skull from thinking too hard? If thought alone could cause fractures, most of us would be in traction by now. But no, only this person believes mental effort comes with a built-in structural failure limit. In their mind, the skull is basically a cheap plastic lawn chair. Fine, until you put too much pressure on it, then crack. They probably had a headache from dehydration or caffeine withdrawal, or trying to do their taxes without crying. But instead of considering any normal explanation, they jumped straight to catastrophic cranium collapse. The real fear here is that if they think that hard again, they might file a warranty claim with their brain manufacturer. And imagine the ER doctor trying not to laugh while saying, no, thinking is not a full contact sport. 5. Google search. If I swallow a seed, will a tree grow inside me? This one returns every year like pollen season. Someone, somewhere, eats a strawberry and immediately imagines germination happening in their internal greenhouse. You know those diagrams in elementary school? Seed to roots, to stem to leaves? They think that exact thing occurs inside the human digestive system, the place specifically designed to dissolve food using corrosive acid. They picture a tiny sapling taking the scenic route up their esophagus like it's auditioning for a reboot of Little Shop of Horrors. And the funniest part is that they're not afraid of dying. They're afraid of becoming botanically embarrassing. I guarantee the search was followed by, how do I tell my mom I might be a ficus now? 6. Google search. Can your stomach move around your body if you jump too hard? I wish I were kidding, but someone genuinely thought their organs behave like loose cargo in the back of an Uber. They jump, things jostle, and suddenly the stomach's in the left shoulder like a biological game of Tetris. This is the kind of logic you get from someone who believes anatomy is held together by hope and Velcro. Meanwhile, the ER doctor is trying to explain, gently, that organs do not in fact slide around like socks in a dryer, and that the sensation they felt was probably just muscles. But no, they're convinced their stomach went on walkabout. Somewhere in that search is an unspoken fear. If I jog, will my spleen end up in my shoe? 7. Google search. Is it bad if I can hear my eyeballs? There are many possible explanations for hearing weird sounds. Sinus pressure, dehydration, sleeping terribly on one side. But this person went straight to, my eyeballs are making noise, and therefore I am broken. The imagery alone is magnificent. Tiny ocular maracas rattling every time they blink. Instead of thinking, maybe allergies, they assumed their eyeballs were trying to communicate like disgruntled coworkers tapping on a desk. This is the exact type of person who, upon hearing a stomach growl, immediately Googles, do intestines file noise complaints? The ER visit practically writes itself. Patient believes eyes are haunted. Meanwhile, the doctor is like, no, that's just fluid movement, and the patient is disappointed it's not a ghost. 8. Google search. Can a headache actually split your brain in half? There's normal overreaction, and then there's believing migraines function like lumberjack axes. This individual experienced pain and immediately imagined their skull cracking like a piñata full of questionable decisions. Instead of assuming stress, dehydration, or the universal human experience known as Monday, they went with, my brain is probably cleaving itself like an avocado. They likely Googled this while squinting at the screen, convinced every pulse was a countdown to self-inflicted brain bisecting. ER doctors adore these cases, not because they're dangerous, but because patients show up reporting internal fault lines. Meanwhile, a nurse is handing them water and saying, you're not tectonic plates, sweetie. 9. Google search. Do I need to go to the hospital if my heart skips a beat when I see my crush? Ah, yes, the medical mystery known as having emotions. Somewhere, a person felt a flutter, a perfectly normal chemical reaction, and leapt immediately to cardiac malfunction. They probably rehearsed the ER explanation too. Doctor, I think love is killing me. And the doctor, trying not to laugh, has to explain that this is not an arrhythmia, it's hormones doing what hormones do. But no amount of logic will convince them they're not moments away from requiring a romantic defibrillator. This is the person who thinks butterflies in the stomach are literal insects and will absolutely Google, can I get pest control for feelings? 10. Google search. If I eat moldy bread, will mushrooms grow in my lungs? Once again, we encounter the persistent belief that the human body doubles as a terrarium. Someone found a suspicious green spot on a slice of bread and decided they had just inhaled spores powerful enough to colonize their respiratory system. They picture mushrooms sprouting like a cottagecore horror film, their lungs turning into a fungal Airbnb. Meanwhile, the truth is boring. Your stomach acid is a biological murder machine. But no, they imagine fungi setting up shop, paying rent, forming a community. The ER doctor is trying to explain digestion, and this patient is mentally preparing to register themselves as a protected wetland. 11. Google search. Can hiccups cause internal organ failure? A simple hiccup. The tiny muscular spasm that makes you sound like a malfunctioning cartoon character. But not for this person. No, they believe each hiccup is a miniature death threat. They imagine their organs trembling in fear every time their diaphragm twitches. 1 hiccup? Annoying. 2 hiccups? Concerning. 3 hiccups? Call the priest. It's over. They probably started counting the hiccups like a doomsday clock, waiting for the one that triggers catastrophic organ shutdown. Meanwhile, the ER staff is calmly explaining that hiccups are harmless, and the patient is staring in disbelief because surely something that annoying must also be deadly. 12. Google search. Does swallowing toothpaste turn your stomach into mint? First of all, if mint-flavored organs were possible, dentists would never stop bragging. But no, someone thinks ingesting a pea-sized amount of toothpaste transforms their insides into a festive holiday air freshener. They imagine their stomach turning cool and minty like a stick of gum after a breakup. They probably even did a controlled experiment. One swallow, immediate panic, straight to Google. In reality, swallowing toothpaste is discouraged, but not because it magically redecorates your digestive tract in spearmint elegance. Yet, this person is convinced they are becoming a living tic-tac. If they ever burped and smelled mint, I guarantee they wrote a will. 13. Google search. Can your veins freeze if you drink iced water too fast? This is the level of fear you get when someone confuses basic anatomy with garden hoses. They chug cold water and immediately picture their veins frosting over like a badly insulated pipe in January. They probably held their chest like they were about to witness their own personal winter storm warning. Meanwhile, internal body temperature exists, insulation exists, biology exists. But sure, iced water equals frozen bloodstream. Imagine the ER trying not to laugh as the patient asks whether they need a space heater for their circulatory system. Somewhere in their mind, Elsa from Frozen is suing them for copyright infringement. 14. Google search. Why does my body hurt after running if running is healthy? This one is special because it contains the exact logic of someone who hasn't exercised since the Obama administration. They finally run, maybe 90 seconds, and wake up the next day feeling like they were beaten with a sack of doorknobs. Instead of accepting that muscles get sore, they decide exercise must be a government lie. They're on Google like an investigative journalist. If running is good, why do I feel like I fell down an elevator shaft? The truth is boring. Muscles complain when they're used. Their version, I think my legs are disintegrating. At the ER, the diagnosis is universal. Congratulations, you move. 15. Google search. Can my brain leak out if I blow my nose too hard? This is perhaps the internet's greatest contribution to medical panic. Someone blew their nose with too much enthusiasm, felt a strange sensation, and decided their brain was attempting an escape. Forget mucus. They believed their gray matter was packing its bags and heading for freedom. They probably checked the tissue, expecting to find a tiny resignation letter from the cerebrum. Meanwhile, sinuses exist, pressure exists, and brains do not leak out unless you've had a very, very bad day. But try explaining that at the ER while the patient is holding a tissue like it's a crime scene. The nurse says, "That's snot," and the patient whispers, "Are you sure?" 16. Google search. Can you die from holding in a fart during a meeting? Ah, yes, the eternal struggle between professionalism and gastrointestinal democracy. Someone out there genuinely believed they were 4 seconds away from exploding like a budget airbag because they didn't want to interrupt their boss's quarterly report with a trumpet solo. They imagined internal pressure rising, organs compressing, paramedics arriving while coworkers whisper, "He shouldn't have fought it." Meanwhile, biology is just sitting there like, "Sweetheart, this is not how physics works. You don't detonate from internal gas buildup. You just get uncomfortable and maybe question your career choices." But no, this person was already planning their obituary. Here lies Greg, taken too soon by the tyranny of manners. Honestly, the only fatal part is the meeting itself. Chi. Google search. Is it possible to accidentally swallow your own uvula? The uvula, that tiny punching bag in the back of your throat, apparently became the star of someone's personal horror film. They woke up with a sore throat and immediately assumed they were at risk of swallowing an internal body part like a loose Lego. They pictured it detaching, sliding down like a paragliding jelly bean, and disappearing forever. The drama, the tragedy. Meanwhile, the uvula is literally anchored, but try explaining that to someone convinced their anatomy comes with detachable accessories. They're typing into Google with the urgency of someone reporting a missing child. The ER doctor hears the story and has to resist saying, "You're fine, your uvula didn't pack its bags and flee the premises." But hey, great imagination. 18. Google search. Can my lungs drown if I shower too long? This one combines paranoia with a remarkable misunderstanding of what a shower is. Someone genuinely looked at the steam swirling around them and thought, Ah, yes, death mist. My lungs are filling with shower water vapor like a slowly sinking submarine. They imagined internal flooding, maritime distress signals, maybe a tiny SOS forming on their ribcage. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just trying to rinse our hair. When they Googled this, they probably turned the water off instantly and waited for their lungs to drain like a wet sponge. A doctor would tell them that inhaling steam does not equal drowning. But honestly, I'm more concerned about the cognitive steam that clearly escaped their head. 19. Google search. Can a headache be caused by too many thoughts at once? Oh, absolutely. Your brain operates like an old Dell laptop from 2004. Open too many tabs and the whole system overheats. At least that's what this person believes. They had a mildly stressful day and immediately pictured smoke rising from their skull like they were about to enter safe mode. Instead of drinking water or taking a nap, they assumed they had overloaded the processor. They probably expected an error message. Warning, cognitive limit exceeded. Immediate shutdown required. The irony is the headache didn't come from too many thoughts. It came from one very persistent dumb one. Luckily, the ER has seen this before and knows exactly what to prescribe. Reassurance and maybe fewer conspiracy podcasts. 20. Google search. If I swallow a bug, can it lay eggs in my heart? This is what happens when someone watches one sensational nature documentary and decides to apply it directly to human anatomy. They swallowed a gnat, a microscopic nothing, and instantly imagined it traveling through the bloodstream with the determination of a backpacking tourist, searching for real estate in the left ventricle. They pictured eggs, larvae, maybe a full insect HOA forming in their chest cavity. Meanwhile, the truth is boring. The bug died instantly in stomach acid, probably cursing its luck. But no, Google had to deal with this glorious fear spiral. Am I becoming a human bee's nest? Honestly, if any part of the body is hosting unwanted life forms, it's usually the brain, specifically the part that produces thoughts like this. 21. Google search. Can you get frostbite from eating ice cream too fast? You've heard of brain freeze, but this person believed they were moments from losing tissue. They took a big spoonful of Rocky Road and suddenly felt the chill of doom. Cue the panic. Oh no, my tongue is dying. They probably examined their mouth in the mirror, expecting to see icicles forming, like a winter wonderland gone wrong. Instead of thinking, I ate cold food too fast, they jumped straight to, I am becoming a medical mystery. If they had gone to the ER, the staff would have needed a whiteboard just to explain temperature regulation. But hey, in their defense, ice cream is dangerous. To people who don't understand how mouths work. 22. Google search. Can earwax melt into my brain during a fever? Someone out there got a fever and immediately turned into a human candle in their imagination. They felt a little warm, maybe noticed some earwax, and leapt to, oh no, I'm liquefying and the wax is migrating north. They picture their ear canals like wax tunnels feeding into their brain, creating a psychedelic drip sculpture. Meanwhile, the real explanation is that they were sick and bored. But no, this person was fully convinced their brain was about to become a Yankee Candle flavor called panic. Doctors have to explain, gently, that the ear isn't a hallway leading directly to the brain. Meanwhile, the patient is devastated. They were convinced they'd discovered a new form of meltdown. 23. Google search. Can coughing too hard dislocate your ribs? Honestly, the commitment here is admirable. Someone coughed once, with slightly more enthusiasm than usual, and immediately believed they had rearranged their own skeleton. They pictured ribs shifting like badly installed floorboards, each cough knocking them further out of alignment. They typed into Google while clutching their chest, imagining they were one sneeze away from a full rib avalanche. Meanwhile, the body is designed to cough. It's not an optional feature, but convincing this person would require an entire PowerPoint presentation. ER staff hear the story and have to resist saying, no, your detachable action figure model of the human body is not accurate. 24. Google search. If I eat too much pineapple, will it dissolve my mouth? Chemistry plus paranoia equals pineapple panic. Someone out there learned that pineapple contains bromelain, an enzyme that breaks down proteins, and immediately concluded they were eating a biological paper shredder. They took one enthusiastic bite, felt a little tingling, and decided their tongue was melting like a popsicle in July. They probably Googled while whispering, "Goodbye, taste buds. We had a good run." Meanwhile, bromelain is mild and temporary, but logic has no power over a person convinced they're self-cannibalizing via fruit salad. ER doctors love this one. They get to explain that pineapple is not corrosive acid and your face will not slide off, unless you're allergic. Then yes, but that's still not a pineapple personality flaw. 25. Google search, can breathing too deeply stretch out your lungs? This person really thought their lungs were like elastic waistbands. Stretch too far, and suddenly they no longer fit right. They probably took a deep breath while feeling anxious and immediately panicked. I think I overinflated. They pictured their lungs sagging like deflated balloons at a birthday party for someone nobody really likes. They imagined doctors needing to tighten them back up. Meanwhile, the only thing actually stretched was their imagination. The ER would calmly explain that lungs expand and contract constantly, but I'm sure this patient would follow up with, "But what if they expand too much?" It's the kind of logic you get when someone lives in fear of their own biology. 26. Google search, can sleeping on my left side stop my heart? Here we have someone who believes the human heart is basically a fragile smartphone battery that stops functioning if placed at the wrong angle. They lay down, felt a weird sensation, probably gas, and immediately blamed gravity for threatening their life. They imagine their heart sliding over like a loose hamster in a cardboard box and hitting some imaginary off switch. Meanwhile, cardiologists everywhere are screaming into the void. When this person Googles the question, they are basically asking, "Did I almost orientation kill myself?" No. No, you did not. You just slept weird. The only thing you endangered was your ability to wake up without unnecessary drama. 27. Google search, can your brain get stuck if you roll your eyes too hard? This one is for anyone who has ever rolled their eyes at a stupid comment. Please know someone out there was afraid their eyeballs might lock in permanent judgment mode. They pictured rolling their eyes so aggressively that their brain somehow hitchhiked behind them and got stuck. They probably tested it, rolled once, felt a twinge, panicked immediately. They imagined going to the ER saying, "Sorry, doctor, I was being sarcastic and now I'm broken." The doctor would struggle to explain that eye movement does not yoink the brain around like a marionette. Meanwhile, the patient promises to never be snarky again, which is the real tragedy. 28. Google search, can I accidentally inhale my own teeth while sleeping? Here's a person sleeping peacefully until they wake up, taste something weird, and immediately assume their teeth have begun escaping like prisoners tunneling out of jail. They picture inhaling them one by one, the teeth bouncing dramatically into the lungs like ceramic hailstones. They probably checked the mirror, counted wrong due to panic, and Googled in sheer terror. Meanwhile, adult teeth are not known for spontaneous detachment, and even if one fell out, the odds of inhaling it are microscopic. But this person already imagined the ER removing a molar from their lung while lecturing them about dental physics. Honestly, the real problem is they counted their teeth at 3 a.m. 29. Google search, if I eat charcoal by accident, will I turn into a filter? Someone bit into burnt food and instantly had a full existential crisis about becoming a Breda pitcher. They pictured charcoal circulating through their bloodstream, absorbing impurities, maybe turning them into a walking water purification system. They imagined their pee coming out crystal clear and lemon-scented. Meanwhile, in reality, a little burnt toast is not going to transform anyone into household equipment. But paranoia is powerful. By the time they Googled this, they were probably halfway convinced they'd need to be rinsed. ER doctors would explain digestion, and the patient would nod, but secretly worry that their next burp might smell like filtered rainwater. 30. Google search, can your spine unravel like a zipper if you bend wrong? Someone bent over, heard a crack, and immediately assumed their spine was a cheap zipper sewn into a fast-fashion jacket. They imagined each vertebra popping loose, cascading downward like a Jenga tower of regret. When they Googled it, they were probably standing perfectly still, afraid that any further movement would unzip them completely. Meanwhile, the crack was likely just gas in the joints, which is normal. But try telling that to someone who believes they nearly unbuttoned their skeleton. ER doctors deal with this one with saint-like patience saying, No, your spine is not a coat, but the patient still moves like a malfunctioning robot for the next week. 31. Google search. If I yawn too wide, can my jaw fall off? This is the perfect finale. Someone yawned, a universal human reflex, and immediately thought they almost decapitated themselves. They pictured their jaw swinging off like a door that's been opened too enthusiastically. They probably rubbed it, widened their eyes, and whispered, "I think I almost detached." Then they sprinted to Google, half expecting to find a medical emergency named yawn dislocation syndrome. Meanwhile, the jaw is one of the most stable joints in the body. But logic means nothing in the face of nocturnal yawning fear. A doctor would reassure them, but they'd still spend the next week yawning like a suspicious chihuahua, afraid to open their mouth more than 1 inch. And there it is, proof that humanity should not be allowed near search engines without supervision. If this parade of medical panic button stupidity didn't break your spirit, congratulations. You may already be qualified to work in an ER. Now, do your civic duty. Drop your own favorite ridiculous Google searches in the comments, vote for the dumbest disaster we covered, and hit like and subscribe before someone Googles whether that's dangerous too.